Welcome to the Mischief Maker broadcast, where chaos, creativity, and common sense collide. Your host, Joel Freeman, was kicked out of high school in Alberta, Canada. He left home at 17 and hitchhiked around North America as a long-haired hippie and dope-smoking fool. He made a 180-degree change, becoming one of the first chaplains in the history of the NBA. As a professional speaker, Joel has traveled to well over 55 countries. His many books have been published in 28 foreign translations. Pieces from his Black History collection have been seen by millions at the United Nations and many other venues. And now, the Chief Mischief Maker himself, Dr. Joel A. Freeman.
Hey guys, it's Teenager Joel here. Oh man, I got caught doing something stupid at school yesterday. I guess it's like my grandma once told me. You might not be the dumbest guy in the world, but you'd better hope he doesn't die. Well, he says you better hope he doesn't die. So you get a little bit of Teenager Joel and much older Joel finishing the bit. Anyway, it's a great evening, great time whenever you're watching this. If you're watching this live, you know who you are, and you will have the opportunity to ask any questions you want. Tonight, we're going to be talking with a dear friend, Dwayne Sims. He's very much involved in the Negro Baseball League. And that's prior to the American or the Major League Baseball that, if you're in the U.S. or Canada, you know all about. And maybe you've seen a little bit in Australia, wherever you are, Japan, Great Britain, Germany, wherever you are. And we're going to be talking with this gentleman who has the what he calls the Negro League Legends Hall of Fame. He's the president of that, the founder of that. And we're going to be discussing about the league, what it was like to be traveling around, going to restaurants, finding bathrooms, finding venues to play in, and at the same time trying to attract crowds of people to pay to get in to watch baseball. Satchel Paige, all of these different individuals we're going to be discussing tonight or today. And so before we get going here, before we bring on our guest this evening, Dwayne Sims, what we're going to do is we're going to watch a music video. It's about Roots, and it's Alex Haley, Roots and the Rosetta Stone. So let's hit that right now.
1964, London calling name, sent to chase a star of silver screen fame. Julie Christie filming, and the meeting never came. So he lingered to see spoils from the old world untamed. A guided tour pause in the museum hall, where a fractured black tablet made Alex recall. Some codes hide quiet till the right key is turned. Every locked up past waits to be known. From bloodline whispers to a world of stone, roots speak loud through the Rosetta Stone.
Three voices carved from a distant time, hieroglyph, demotic, and Greek in a line. Champagne, listen where others guess. Let the known words lead them into the rest. Secrets unlocked, Egypt became the trend. What was sealed by time came alive again.
30,000 feet on the flight back home. That stone kept tapping in his mind like a drum. Kinte said his name, cold strummed the tone. deep waters run.
Fragments of language, broken but strong. A map in the music of a mother tongue.
Some codes hide quiet till the right key is turned. Every locked up past waits to be known. From bloodline whispers to a language on stone, roots speak loud through the Rosetta Stone.
In Tennessee, Mo's voice is gone. Only cousin Georgia's still holding on. 80 years heavy, bedridden and afraid. Till Africa stirred when telling her tale.
She sat straight up when Africa was named, and the past caught fire in the words she claimed.
No charts, no ledgers, no paper trail. Just scattered clues that refuse to fail.
The UN and Hamilton, one face at a time, till Gambia answered what the world you declined.
One man heard home in the words he said, and the door swung wide to the names of the dead.
Some codes hide quiet till the right key is turned. What was taken can still be grown. From porch-lit tales to a journey full blown, the roots of Alex Haley and the Rosetta Stone.
Well, if you look up at the QR code above us, just before we bring Dwayne on, I want to mention that there's an opportunity for you to go to the QR code and learn about our sponsor. Take a look at the link tree. There's information about the music, about our guests over time. And there's a link to a YouTube channel where you can watch any of the past shows. We have, I think this is show number 45 we have right here today, or this time with Dwayne. And also, if you want to ask questions, if you're live, if you're watching this on some podcast or through one of the BBC affiliated stations, you can't ask questions. You're going to have to be kind of vicariously learn from other questions that people ask. But if you want to ask questions, get your fingers together and get them worked up and going. And then Mel, our producer, is going to put those on for us, and then we will respond accordingly. And Dwayne will be able to take care of respond to your questions at that time. So Dwayne, come on board. Dwayne he executive produced a play as a younger man. He's a filmmaker. He's also a collector. That's a passion that he and I share. And also he's been in Germany. He's been all around the world. He's worked for the federal government. And his father, I've known him for decades. And so that's kind of how I got to know Dwayne, because I think one time his dad said, "You need to meet my son," or something. I can't remember how it all happened, but we'll figure that out. So Dwayne, welcome aboard. And I guess with all that other stuff, we'll put a pin in it. But I'd like to just kind of step back into your childhood a little bit and tell us a little bit about your siblings, your parents, your upbringing, to kind of give us some texture on who you are as we learn more about your passion for the Negro Baseball League and some other elements that surround that.
Yeah, I guess one of the interesting things is I would never forget when we moved out to the suburbs of Maryland from Washington, D.C. By the way, I'm a Freeman Hospital baby. So that's actually right now where HU, Howard University is. But what happened
Wow.
is right now, Freeman is now the Colin Powell Communication Center.
Huh.
So one day I went down the road and I had done an interview at the station there, and I said, "Oh, I need to go find out where I was born at." And actually, I took a picture, and I said, "Oh, now I finally know where my roots started at." But
That's
even
great.
with that said, yeah, I grew up in Washington, D.C., from Harvard Street to Minnesota Avenue. Actually, between that, I used to live near West Virginia Avenue near Gallaudet College,
Oh,
right
yeah.
across the street. Never know until you get older. And then we moved out to good old Maryland, I call it. And won't forget when I started elementary school. I went to Kimball Elementary School in D.C. Just one note, I'm passing through time. And Johnny Gill and Stacy Lattisaw also attended that later years. See, I'm
Mhm.
old school from that time. And my goddaughter, Lori Adams, also attended that school. So it's a small world, full circle. So
Yes.
when we moved out to Maryland, one of the most interesting things, around the third or fourth grade, people may not know there was a place called Resurrection City on the Monument Ground. And at that time, in the 1960s, this is around 68, 67, people were homeless in tents, living on the
Hmm.
monument ground, mud. And I will never forget Miss Heckrow,
So
my
that's right on the
my
mall in
teacher
DC. The mall in
on the
DC.
mall and the monument grounds. If people go look,
Huh.
Resurrection City, it's got to be on the internet by now. But yeah, they had it there, and I've never seen tents with people. And I remember Miss Heckrow, Boston, Massachusetts. She had that Boston accent. She did a field trip. And so when I got home, I told my mother we would get a bag of clothes and items. And I got all my good clothes. My mother was looking at me, and my mother was always, I'm not sending nothing with a hole in it anyway. So I actually got a bag of clothes and went down there, and it changed my life because
Huh.
I'd never seen children without clothes, half dressed and everything, shoes in the mud.
Hmm.
And I actually grew up in a middle class family. We had dessert. And if you didn't eat your peas, you didn't get dessert. And I
Nope.
remember fish on Friday, spaghetti. Father would get us up Saturday morning early to do chores. I'm like, who does chores at 7, 8 a.m.? It's time to sleep. That's school time. So, with that said, my father really has inspired us, all my siblings. I have two brothers and a sister. I'm the oldest. And we got involved with the football team. We had the
Hmm.
boys' clubs then. And he actually used his own money. Him and some of the coaches went together, got their money so we could have uniforms.
That's something.
My father did the Boy Scouts. That was interesting. But my mother was very important because I became a Cub Scout, then Chief, Pueblo, and then I went to the Boy Scouts, first, second class, and tenderfoot. I forgot about the tenderfoot. So I have some memory back then, even though I just celebrated my 69th birthday last month.
Huh.
So this is one of those things. So basically, in my childhood, I've always felt the need after going to Resurrection City during that time. Oh, I got to do something for the kids. That was just
Hmm.
always me because I had been blessed growing up. My father drew up and he would tell us, like, he used to got to go get the water at 11 o'clock p.m., walk in the woods and go find that water. I'm like, oh, well, we're really blessed. We should count our blessings. I think the generation today do not have no clue
Hmm.
what happened back then. Even when we were growing up right now, they just get on the phone and food is delivered. They don't have to,
Yeah.
water's delivered. They don't have to go pick up anything. So that's basically that part of my early life. And then we got to go to Germany. And that was very interesting because of the government job my father had that I always remember.
Where
My
in
mother would
Germany
say,
were you?
I was in Frankfurt, Germany.
Hmm.
And by my father being there in school, got to go, we were civilian. But when we
Hmm.
went to school, they were asked, well, what your parents do? My mother always said, you can never tell you what your father do. So I can't even tell you now. We don't tell what my father did when we were over there, but we were civilians. And I got to wrestle over there. I got to go to school with the military kids. But what I found out that was different was that us being civilian, we couldn't go every place on the base. But that was because who my father worked for, too. So that was a great experience, hanging around with the lieutenant colonels and the colonel families and some of our best friends. So by wrestling at that time, I had one of the changing moments in my life. We went from Frankfurt down to Heidelberg, which is another place, and we went to Ramstein, and they had the big championship. So I won all of Northern Germany in the military school. This is in the middle school. So when we got to the big one, all of Germany, actually, at the end of my match, they raised my hand that I won.
Wow.
And half an hour later, they came back and took the award from me and said they miscounted.
What?
And all the fans and everybody, I had my first experience that you don't beat a colonel's son on the mat. And the young man said, you know, it's not a negative thing. It's just things that happen in our life. And you have to look at it, how you're going to react. But being a young kid and everybody was booing all in this arena and everything. Plus, I was a civilian. And I was last seated because my grades weren't high enough anyway to join the tournament. My mother said, if you get the grades up, you can go. If you don't, you don't. I got my grades up. So I was last seated, and I beat, out points, outscore everyone up to the final. And then I taught me something there. My coach was saying, Dwayne, this just happened. But I learned, do not let man judge you in your success. Do not let man decide what you're going to do because somebody else made a decision for you. You got to keep on for the dream. So that's one of my big experiences. So
Can we stop right there? Can we stop right there? You get more to share, but I want to pause there. How did you get from feeling hurt, wounded, and all the rest to what you just said?
Well, the interesting thing is when we were in Germany, my brother Gregory and I accepted Christ as our Savior. We went to a camp while we were there, and that's how we got introduced to Jesus Christ. And I believe that that experience, and then to have one of the young men, Brett Standiford, he's no longer with us, invited us out to this retreat. And it changed my whole look at life. So it's almost like being prepared before something happens, and then you still don't know if you're prepared for it. And I believe that really impacted me more than anything because that was just love. And I guess basically I've been all love all my life. They asked me, why are you smiling? I said, I can't help myself. It's in me. So basically I will always remember that's when we accepted Jesus Christ in the life in Germany. Yes.
Now, how long were you in Germany? Thank you.
3 years. Then in 72, we came back to good old America. And I was never the same. You know, when we were in Germany, we saw, for me, I buy vehicles. I've had several little vehicles. And we saw Maseratis and Mercedes and all these Italian cars while we lived in Germany. So in 72, when we got back, you know, I was the American car. I remember getting my Camaro, but I couldn't wait until when I graduated in the class of 75, Duval Senior High School, give them a shout out in Atlanta, Maryland. Well, I decided to get married after that. And then at that time, we were talking about having a daughter, my baby. I have 2 kids, Tamika and Sean. Tamika's the oldest. For my birthday, I actually went and purchased a Porsche 924. And that was influenced by Germany. That had nothing to do, because, you know, Porsches was German.
Oh, and it's a regular car driving around, right?
It's a regular car there, but in that year, you didn't see 78.
Yeah.
You didn't see very many of them. So that was one of my dreams, to bring my daughter home from the hospital in a Porsche. Of course, I got pulled over by the police when we were going to the hospital. And then he actually escorted us when he found out, oh, my wife's getting ready to have that baby. So that's why I was driving. And he actually, so it's almost like what you see in the movies, it does happen in America.
Wow. Wow, that's
So that
crazy.
was part of my journey there in that early years. And then at that point, I was always in the back of my mind that I was always going to do something charity, something for the children. I wanted to go back to my neighborhood. And because my father being involved with the Boy Scouts, we were probably the first African-American Boy Scout troop during that era, but also in the DMV. You know, we got to go to Camp Goshen. Father made sure we had a lot of experience, and I know he had impacted a lot of kids in our neighborhood. Not the hood, we lived in a neighborhood.
And by the way, those in Australia, Germany, wherever, DMV is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. It's this whole region.
That is correct, the DMV that they call now.
Yeah.
We went to Camp Goshen. So basically that was my, introduction, and by my father always giving and doing things, I guess it did rub off on me. And my mother was about patience. My mother's the one that when we did get back from Germany to church, that was main important. So, we had a balance of mom and dad. The only thing that we did not care too much about, my mother would say, can't wait till your father get home. So my father would do the spanking. So I would always, and my brother, I better tell him now. So I always made sure I would go to the bathroom so he get the spanking first, because I was always the thinker. He'll be tired by the time he get to me. And you get, Dwayne, come and get yours. And this is so funny. And he'll probably laugh at this interview. True story, though. True story. And when you talk about you being mischievous, I used to sneak in the kitchen with the cake up on top of the refrigerator, climb up in the chair, take the knife, and see, this is one thing you have to learn when you cut somebody's cake that's been cut, that your mother has cut and gave you a slice the other day. You need to cut it at the same angle that the last piece was cut.
She'll remember.
Never knew it. They never knew it. It looked about the same, may look smaller, but that's illusion. So I was so mischievous like you. I don't know how bad you were, but I was sort of the good boy growing up.
So you got back, you got married,
Yes.
and what kind of job did you get into that? And who was in your life that helped to inspire you to get involved in the Negro Baseball League and collecting and things like that?
Right. So my first journey of doing things in the community, I created Tri-Rose. And Tri-Rose represented the Trinity, the seed, the bud, and then the rose. And one of my dear friends, and people may not know of Herb or Peaches and Herb, his wife, Yvonne, sort of like adopted me. And with that said, she was an entrepreneur. She was in the hair business.
Now, what was their best song? What was their most popular song? Peaches and Herb?
Reunited.
Okay.
I can't sing, but Reunited and roller skate. And people may not know Peaches and Herb were the first people with suntans. I say suntan and no suntan to perform on mainland China. He was there during the time of Mike Douglas and Merv Griffin and Bob Hope. Herb knew all of them. Herb basically was, when they talk about music now, the digital, Peaches and Herb as a duet was probably one of the top selling duets at that time. But also their songs at that time was also worldwide. So we didn't talk about worldwide, a little bit here and now, but then they were worldwide then. So that was one of the things. So his wife, Yvonne, she was like another mother to me. She adopted, she was an entrepreneur. So she had the beauty salon themes, and I would go there and show up all the time and see her, wave at him as he goes about his business. And by being around them, especially Theme, she actually gave me X amount of dollars on the table to do my dream to be a publisher. So when I went to pay her back, she said, no, Dwayne, you can go ahead and keep that. I mean, it wasn't a little bit of money, but the thing about it is she said, well, you're the first one to pay me back. So that was it. But she has
Wow.
been my guidance, my energy. She's gone now, but I always feel her. I could always talk about anything to her because different from being a visionary and just dreaming all the time than someone that actually implements something. And that's
Yes.
what I learned from her. You know, you can always dream, and
Yeah, it's a dime a
sometimes it's
dozen.
hard to even, and it's hard to share your dream. You have to be very careful
Who you
because
share it
I used to
with.
get
Yeah.
beat up sharing my dream, you know? And then sometimes you share your dream. I looked in the newspaper one day, North Carolina. I said, that's my thing 2 years ago. So I realized if you think of something, you keep it to yourself. And then to find the right moment, because you can't do it by yourself. So those
Yes.
are the two things, being young at my age at that time. It took me a while. So I said, well, God, I need to pray for wisdom and knowledge. And that's always been my prayer, wisdom and knowledge. And that, because decision making, it's okay to have two choices. And I always say, I'd rather have two choices, no more than three, but not have seven, because it gets confusing. You can't make up your mind. And sometimes you only get one choice anyway. So you got to make that decision. So that's one thing of a learning lesson for me in my life. And I've always been the type of person, even in that time, I used to dream as a kid to see Esther Rose from Good Times and Marlon Gibbs from the Jeffersons. And I actually became executive producer on the street by accident. And she said, oh, you know, we got a conversation. She said, you got to meet my friend. I said, meet who friend? I just met you. She said, well, you got to meet my friend, because I was telling her about the things I was talking about. She said, well, we got to go to Dulles Airport. Here I'm in Lanham, Maryland. And I said, well, I'm not driving. She said, I'll drive you. So, you know, okay, I don't have to pay, burn my gas. I'm going to ride. So she rolled me all the way to Dulles Airport. I met Curtis King. And in that 30 minutes, him getting in the plane to go back to Dallas, 45 days later, Esther Rose and Marla Gibbs, I flew in them here to the nation's capital. Over a stranger in a conversation from a dream that I always saw them on TV, always wanted to meet them, but would never know that I'll be responsible for flying them in, taking care of them. And Curtis King, he blessed me with the moment. But if I said no to the young lady, mind my business and keep on going, I would have missed that blessing of a dream. And
So
when
Esther
they
Roll,
came here,
she played in what? What show did she play in?
Good Times with JJ.
Good Times. That's right. That's right.
Good Times.
JJ.
Yeah. Marla Gibbs has been a course and still performing now. So
Yes.
with that said is I learned that you don't know where your blessings of your visions and dreams, and that let me know I was on the right path, whatever I was trying to do. Sometimes I think what we have in us, that's God bless, we got to use it, keep moving with it, and we get a bonus while we doing it. And that was a bonus. And I actually, even though I brought them here and I called Kathy Hughes she was up on Radio 1 and WOL. That was Radio 1 at the time. And I said, I got them in the car and sent them right there. Went to the Lincoln Theater down off U Street. And I donated a whole elementary school, all the top tier seats free. And then I took all those kids backstage. They like, those kids can't come back here. I said, oh, no, they can come back here. They're my guests. And during that whole series, it's called The Black Women's Legacy. Through that whole thing, I had Tonia Stewart involved, and Phyllis Stickney was another actress. I was going to have B. Richards, who played in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, but she wasn't doing well. So that would have been to top everything off. But with that event, when it was over, I told everybody, hey, everybody, shh. They said, our children, look who's up in the upper area. None but kids. You didn't even know children were up there. And I clapped for them. They made my moment. That was a treasure for me. So through that, as I move along with that, I've been blessed. I started with basketball before even I got involved with Negro League. I would do games. I would have Globetrotters, Tyrone Hollywood Brown, and a couple of folks came up. And then I had rerun play, I had, it's just so much. I don't want to keep going on in that area to get to the Negro League. But my life, I have been blessed, and I had adopted 20, 30 schools. So I took Esther Rose and Marla Gibbs to the schools I went to. You know, I've always went back to Ardmore Elementary School, which in Maryland I grew up. And I am a 1968 graduate of the 6th grade class of Ardmore Elementary School. So that brings me into Negro League. I never knew Negro League existed.
Let's hold it right there. Let's hold it right there. We got to take a break for our sponsor, and we're going to come back.
Okay.
We're going to actually see a baseball bat signed by a whole bunch of people, a bunch of players. We're going to talk all about this in the second part of the show. But we're going to first hear from Vivant Dinan about the Rosetta Universe.
I traveled throughout much of Egypt, creating detailed sketches of ancient ruins. Many of those drawings ended up in the magnificent Description de l'Égypte. Help the Rosetta Stone Traveling Exhibit Project transform an ancient artifact, the Rosetta Stone, into a modern metaphor for problem solving. Make it a priority.
Well, there you have it. Vivant Dinan from around 1801, I think, is probably when 1800. And this is about the Rosetta Universe project, and they're our sponsor for this show. Also, we have something that I designed. It's a belt for Jack Johnson, the first heavyweight champion boxer in the world, 1908. Those of you from Australia, he beat Tommy Burns in Sydney, just outside of Sydney, and then he beat James Jeffries in 1910, and took the asterisk off his name and his win, and no one else could get him. So this belt, there's only 700 we're making. And when the 700 are gone, then we're going to destroy the mold, the design, never to be seen again. Each one is hand numbered, hand signed, weighs about 10 pounds. I was just with Larry Holmes about a month ago up at Muhammad Ali's training camp, and he got one of these, and he just said he's seen all kinds of belts. He said it's the most beautiful belt he's ever seen. So, hey, hope you're able to check it out on the QR code, and make sure you take a look at it. We'll ship it anywhere in the world. It's our fundraiser incentive gift for the Rosetta Universe. So every penny goes toward the nonprofit work. Well, let's get back to you, Dwayne. It's just fascinating hearing about your travels, things that you've experienced, the things that have prepared you. Now, when you got into the Negro Baseball League, kind of give us that step into what caused you to become passionate about this, and then about collecting, because that's a whole nother level, and it's almost a sickness in many cases.
Yes. And I congratulate you on that wonderful belt, Jack Johnson. And in my collection, I have actually photos that they had mounted from the Jeffries fight. Yes. I have that in my collection. Threw it on.
No, you do.
So, I got to give some credit. And people don't realize that Jack Johnson played in the Negro League. He played for a team in the Sandlot League.
Great segue.
It tied right in. And he knew Rue Foster, who was actually recognized as the founder of the Negro National League, which is 1920 in February. So my journey with this baseball, and basically I recognize Negro League in American baseball history. That's the first thing I would like to relate to, because baseball is America's game. No matter which size, short, tall, and you can go and toast stuff, drink a lot of water, and still hit a home run out of a stadium. So that's the game of baseball, which I never played. My beginning of baseball, which I never realized, Paul Casanova, who played for the Senators, Washington Senators, was my next door neighbor. He was a catcher. And then later on in life, I lost my glove, left it outside, never got it back. hey, maybe somebody listening to the show, that glove on Edward Street in the backyard, that's mine. You can return it, no problem. And I left it, and I would never forget it, because later on, not until 2003, when I founded the Negro League Legends Hall of Fame, I didn't realize that Paul Casanova was Cuban, and he also played in the Negro League.
Wow.
I missed that opportunity. Well, really back in 2000, never even paid any attention to the Negro League baseball at all. I was never really a baseball fan per se. I love boxing for one, number one like you in a sense. And I was always doing a lot of charity work. So what happened is one day, one of my dear friends, Christine Roberts, she actually shared with me, oh, you know, she met somebody with Negro League. And the person from that Negro League was Mamie Peanut Johnson,
Wow.
who played for the Indianapolis Clowns. And she was working at a store. So thank you, Christina, because I would have never took that journey. So through Mamie Peanut Johnson, when I found out a woman played, oh, wow. So now they talk about 3 women played, but more than that played. Right now, Minnie Forbes is living right now today, got a birthday coming up in May. She actually also played and was the owner of a team. Her Ted Raspberry, her uncle, she ended up inheriting the team. So I tell people all the time, they said, oh, a woman was the owner of a team? How could that be? I said, any Major League Baseball team or sport you talk about, when something happens to the owner, the daughter or son may take it over. Yes. So don't they become the owner? I don't, they get confusing when they hear women, but at least 3 women have actually owned and managed teams in the Negro League. And this year, 2026, when they go to my website, we have our annual East-West game. We're going to talk about over 13 women who are actually involved in the Negro League. And I give kudos
your website,
to Go ahead.
Your website is on your moniker there. Yeah.
Yes. So be welcome.
LHOF.org.
Yes. Be welcome to come and join that. And in August, the end of August, we'll do that game. So I showed you Mamie's autograph. And one thing is, I'm going to share something about these autographs. And then through Mamie, I met, let me get this right, Frank Evans, who became my godfather. Okay, there you go. So what makes my bats unusual and rare, Frank signed the team he played for, Birmingham Black Barons, in the year. So that's one thing completely on this bat. I'm going to sneak another name up in there, Buck O'Neil.
Buck O'Neil.
He was very good. He's the reason why we do talk about Negro League, bless his heart. And I'm going to go to one of my favorite players that I got to meet. Ted Double Duty Radcliffe. He played in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Bless his, and I got to meet him till the age of 102 years old. So my bats basically have many players' names that I've captured over the years. But what I did is I wanted to make sure that people will notice, oh, excuse me, Monty Irvin. Okay, come Negro League players. Got Monty Irvin's autograph.
Monty Irvin.
One of the things, Monty Irvin, yeah. Monty Irvin would have went just as soon as Jackie Robinson, as I understand, by Sam Lacey's son. Sam, also Tim Lacey. And Sam Lacey is really responsible with Window at the time being writers, why they finally integrated the American and National League.
Angel Hernandez has a question here or a comment.
Yeah.
He says, most people don't know that Moses Fleetwood Walker is recognized as the first black man to play in the major leagues in 1884, way before Jackie Robinson. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I agree with you with that. And the thing about it is he was not the only one. There was a couple brothers, and a lot of people don't know that history. Even in the early era of Major League Baseball, during Ty Cobb era, we're talking about 1907 in those era, a lot of the African Americans played as Cuban players. See, you could be from another country and actually have an opportunity. So Fleetwood, we have him. We have quite a few athletes. See, I think one thing people don't understand, until segregation came, we played integrated. One of my personal collections I have the Washington Giants of 1909 incorporation papers, and it was called the Colored League. And I think it's a lot more going on, but I actually, as a collector, have the artifacts, but not to.
What's the difference between the Colored League and the Negro League?
Right now, they don't talk about it, but my collection is on the website. Anybody, I go to the website, you will actually see one of the rarest collections in the world that's ever been collectively together. Of 1903, 1905, I had the incorporation papers, which usually they say was not organized, but also I let people know about history. It's subject to change. What happened is we find out that this collection, I named it the Rutherford Hayes Jones collection, because he actually did, he actually had a stadium in Washington, D.C. Hold 2,500 people. So this is a tease. You got to go to the website. I'm not giving all this up, but I thank you for Fleetwood Walker, but he was not the only one. And one of the other things, when you go to my website, and we're going to talk about the Colored League, because basically we never had records and information. So my collection has at least 60 documents, still including about 20 photographs from 1909, 1910, letterheads that talk about the colored champions. And during that time was Pete Hill, So White, Rube Foster, who are all in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. So it's so much out there. And I think the reason why we don't know, because we never had records of it. I even have the Native American team that played during the Colored League era, the Nebraska Indians. I also have a receipt from the hotel in D.C. for $1, the document in my possession. And I thank the Nebraska University. They had actually scanned. I was trying to purchase one of the small pictures. It was like a 4x3, but I missed out on it. But I will be sharing that this year because I give them the credit because they scanned it for me, high resolution, so I can share that. And I got to thank Hunt Associates, LLC, the auction house, Hunt out of Pennsylvania. They represented this well. You know, I can share one thing. If anybody has anything collectible and worthy, they do a fantastic job, and I really appreciate them bringing this awareness. So that's one of the things that are missing now, that I will be sharing that. And if you go to the website, you're going to see images from the Philadelphia Giants. At that time, most of the teams were called Giants, Philadelphia Giants, Washington Giants. And I actually have the players in their uniforms from back then.
Now we have John Franklin. He says, Frank Grant is probably the best black baseball player of the 19th century in the pre-1910 era. A stellar second baseman in the 1880s and 1890s. He starred for the Buffalo Bisons and was known for his elite hitting and fielding, often being called the Black Dunlap. Explain that.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
I agree
John.
with you. So go to my website. You're going to see Frank Grant in his uniform. It was actually in the auction that I had, and that was in 2024 at the Louisville Slugger Museum. So that is there, and some details on that. And on one of the documents, Frank Grant's name is on the letterhead, the Colored World Champions, Philadelphia Giants.
Now, tell us a little bit about the travel, eating, just some of the logistics. Because I know I did a little bit of research into Nat King Cole, for instance. You know, he would perform on stage, people go crazy, his music, but he came in through the back door. He had to sleep in a special hotel or a side, some kind of place that was in the Green Book. They couldn't get gas at every gas station. What was this like?
I caught you something about the Green Book and the place that they.
Yes. I think you're frozen.
Yes, I'm not back now.
Yes, you're back now. Your voice is. I think. I think Let's see. Can you hear me, Dwayne? I think his phone or his it's all frozen. You might have to go out and come back in, Dwayne. And then
Can you hear me now? Am I back?
Now we're here. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm back. Yeah.
We're talking about the Green Book.
I'm near the nation's. Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm near the nation's capital, and we can't keep phones and signals here. I'm just letting nothing political. Everything is going on. We do not keep signals here in the area. So it's not on you all. We apologize on my end. But if you live here, our phones, everything drops all during the day. So we're on alert anyway. So it's interesting when you talk about the Green Book and relationships. Here's my biggest thing that I look at. The Negro League players is a good example, even during the Colored League. They did ride on the trains. People don't talk about that much to get from city to city. They don't realize, even because I really focus more on the Colored League, because back then, we talk about 1905, 1907. Today, a lot of the owners had suntans and no suntan. You know me about my suntan and no suntan, about the rainbows in America, So with that said, they were millionaires then.
Huh.
They traveled, even on the trains, going back to Jack Johnson. And then when he was with Rube Foster, they wore nice suits, nice shoes. They dressed well-mannered. And then once they get to the field and after the game, all baseball players get crazy then, but most athletes do in celebration. But with that Green Book, what I want to say really is America has two levels of it. Because a lot of people, didn't matter, where you lived at, and sometimes traveling. I've even seen pictures. Here's a good example of the stadium and a baseball, Comiskey Park. The Negro Leagues would fill it up. But if you go and look at pictures, you do see mixed crowds. Usually like at Griffith Stadium here in the nation's capital, where we talk about the Washington Grays, which played here part-time because they really were a Philadelphia team. It's a good example that they did divide them, sometimes by fence, but I met some people. But we just have to do more homework when we look at these travel times. They did have to stay in. A lot of the hotels were owned by people with suntans, you see? So this is the funny thing about America fabric. You cannot leave out anybody who was part of the fabric of the great America that we live in now. Because even during the war times, we talk about the Negro League was still going on. A lot of the folks later on, players, end up serving in the military. They don't talk about that. But the thing is, I want to say Nat Strong in the early years, because I'm more focused on the Colored League now, since now we can prove that he was involved. He had different integrated teams, and they played against each other. In the early years, hotels, we talk about 1903, 1905, which I target because they claim it's not being organized. But one of the teams I have, the Washington Giants, which is the 1909, I have the billing for the players, how much it costs for their food, how much it costs for the uniform. I even have the scorebooks of games being played. Until segregation came along, I think if we never had it, we wouldn't be talking about the different leagues right now. And then finally they recognized the Negro Leagues being part of the American fabric. And I hope for the future that the Colored League would be recognized by the documents and the history that I put together. And I still got half the collection from the Colored League era. And which means is one of the biggest on the site, because my mind now, you got me excited a little bit, and I really want to follow some of the answers to some of the people's questions. But what happened is, it didn't matter in the early years if you had a suntan or not, because they played integrated ball on those days. Some of the players that I've met, like on the baseball bat, I have bats with 40 signatures on it and everything. And they would tell me, if you saw a brother with no suntan, probably when it got dark, late at night, they would say the sheriff would come out there and tell them to get off the field. So, baseball is America's game. So that's where I'm at now. Right now, I have many other collections that I'm looking at. And I just want to make that bridge, close that bridge, America's game.
Now, talk about the first item you ever got. You know, whether it's a
Okay.
document or a bat or a glove or something like that. And what does that mean to you today? And how did you get it?
So with the baseball bat that I shared that has so many signatures on it, when I got started in 2003, I was kind of disappointed because I couldn't find anything on Negro League, especially here in the
Yeah.
nation's capital. Pittsburgh, other cities, Chicago, they talked about it. Birmingham, Atlanta, they talked about it. A lot of the players that I had met in my early years, I went to Birmingham and met quite a few. I've actually met over in the later generation, besides Ted Double Duty and Willie Bucky Wallace, who was from Pittsburgh Crawford. They both played back in predating the 30s. They played in 1925, 27. I met them and they kept coming here to Washington at the age of 102 years old. Bucky used to ride as a hobo on the train. But I have these autographs. So each time I would do an event, I would invite the players to come, and especially players, because I've never even heard about them. So one year, the Library of Congress, 2002, Congress finally, with J.C. Watts, Barbara Mikulski, Rick Santorum, they hosted an event to recognize there was a Negro League, but a congressional, I can't remember the number of it, of the legislation that they passed recognizing the Negro League as part of American baseball history. So I was part of one of the sponsors for that event. So I ended up supportive during that time. I got to meet 30 players, and most of them came from Birmingham. So when they came here from Birmingham for that event, now they realize, you don't know nothing, young man, about anything about baseball, but at least I know you all. So I did a ceremony, Ardmore Elementary School. That's why I mentioned that, 6th grade graduate in 68. I did my own induction ceremony for some of the players that were still living, including Ted Double Duty, and like 35, 36 players. What my partner and I did at that time, we gave a group all baseball bats and shared with them to sign to each other, and y'all keep your own bat. All these years, I don't think, very rarely, they never exchanged the autographs. So that's how I became a collector of these bats. That was my first big, but the thing is, I said on my bats, the team you played, the year you played, and then I had a little piece of paper, and it needed 2 signatures to validate the one signature I had captured that you knew him and he played. So I wanted, that's how I'm sort of organized in one way. Want something very, precious. And then during that time, I found out that the Globetrotters, Harlem Globetrotters, had a Negro League team.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they had a Negro League team, and Metal Lockleman was my guest in 2015. Wow, bless his heart.
Yeah, he was on my advisory board for years. He was on my advisory board. Yeah. Yep.
Well, I got to meet him for 3 days. We went to pick his butt up. Look, when I first, and I just shared this with you, this was another magic moment for me. So Tyrone Hollywood Brown from Atlanta, Georgia, one of the guys who supported me during my event, played for the Harlem Globetrotters too at the time, early years. And what happened is I said, I'd like to get Metal Lock. He said, well, get the number you can call. So I called the number and I said, hello, I would like to get a hold of Mr. Metal Lockleman. And like to bring him to Washington. And I gave them the time and date. Well, he's not available. I say he's not available. So I said, well, when is he available? And then they said he would be up in Connecticut, So I said, tell him I will pick his butt up, bring him to Washington, D.C., and fly your butt back home to your wife in Scottsdale, Arizona. See, all you have to do is ask. 30 minutes later, hello, hey, I know who you are. I just want to meet the man who's going to pick my butt up here, bring my butt to Washington, and fly my butt back home to my wife. And on a Sunday, I went to meet him at the hotel. I got my best friend to drive us up there. Nice Right. So we can write Irving Harris III. And we spent overnight. So I said, here's an interesting thing, if you don't mind. So as we were at the hotel, I
We have
said, well, Metal
five
Lock,
minutes left.
got 5 minutes?
Yep.
Okay. Metal Lock, what'd you like to eat? He said, Italian food. I said, okay. I asked the young lady, where's the restaurant? We went to the restaurant. So we got to the restaurant. They took us to the back because they knew who he was because we were in Connecticut. The owner showed up, and the owner said, could he come back there? And I said, well, you had to ask Metallock. He's my guest. I just met the man, sort of in that situation. So when the owner sat down, he shared with Metallock, and I got to go find my film footage because I asked him on my phone. He said, Metallock, I remember when you couldn't move in my neighborhood. So I had to record that. And Metallock actually ended up moving in that neighborhood in Connecticut. I could get to part 1, part 2, part 3 with you and go all night long, but I really appreciate this opportunity. You know, it's like I've been blessed and I like to capture the moment.
Now, what is, now did you help bring the Negro League issue to the Major League Baseball and
no,
have
I
them
did
accepted?
not. No, they were already existing from Birmingham, Alabama. They have already had started being involved with people there. And one of the most important things at that time, I was just coming along because I didn't even know anything about it. And then what I decided to do that, excuse me. I'm sorry. We're doing live broadcast. Tell them they have to be quiet. I'm sorry. They're
No
walking in
worries.
the hall. It's live. So yeah, so what we did is, I'm sorry. I apologize. So basically I think what happened is Negro League really had been going on for a while in certain, especially down in the South. And then people were never really in this area. I had never even heard about it until, when I met Mamie. And then when I actually bought like 50, I've met over 100 players in the Negro League. So that was one of the most important values for me. But I know there's some people, Phil Dixon, I had bought all these books to learn about it. He's been doing Negro Leagues for 30 years. He was part of one of the founders of the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City. So it's like I'm the new kid on the block in a sense, but I treasure this history in American baseball history, and everybody's invited. And when I do this event, August the 29th, I give all the tickets away, 7,000 tickets away free to see an old throwback Negro League game, East-West game that was played in 1933. Gus Greenlee is responsible with other owners of creating this the same year that Major League Baseball created their East-West game. I understand that they did, in May, they did theirs, but go ahead.
We got 90 seconds left. Tell us a story that one of the players still living told you that it just surprised you.
I think the one thing is Frank Evans, who I shared with you all on my bat, became my godfather. He gave me all the name, Willie Mays, phone number, addresses, and everything. And he actually, I had this glove he had gave me to hold on to. That glove actually was Satchel Paige's glove. And he had traded his fishing boots for that glove with Satchel Paige. That was his story. And that's just crazy. Amazing. Frank used to travel with him and drive him. And Frank became my godfather. He's the reason why I've gotten involved with this in the first place. And I love him. He's gone now, but you just never know how you get influenced by one individual.
Well, Dwayne, it is such a treat having you on. I love you like a brother. You're incredible. You have a lot of wisdom, a lot of advice, and you're very knowledgeable. And thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy schedule to be with us here on the Mischief Maker Show.
Anytime with you, my brother.
You have just experienced another episode of the Mischief Maker broadcast. Hit the subscribe button. Connect at chiefmischiefmaker.com. Thanks for coming along for the ride. And hopefully, you are now a bit closer to becoming a mischief maker in your part of the world.